Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. What's going on, guys? Early chatters are in. Thank you all for being here each and every day on this live stream. I appreciate you. Kind of waiting for Rockfin to start. Do we have Rockfin? Come in, Rockfin. For some reason, there's no chat on the Rockfin page, so... Oh. Here we go. We are now live on Rockfin. We have one trusty viewer on Rockfin. Guys, let's... I know it might be a little... the change thing is painful, and I know that YouTube is very, very easy. But I would highly suggest signing up for a Rockfin account and trying to come over and hang out with me on Rockfin and just kind of get used to it. I only say that because I keep hearing from a lot of different, I wouldn't call them sources, but from a lot of different people and places and other channels that the likelihood that YouTube starts really cracking down on people is very high. And Whitney Webb is also talking about this as well, that in the next few months, YouTube might really ramp up the censorship, or it might be, taking channels down, or really just inhibiting people so much on their channels that it might be difficult for them to continue or whatever, so... Oh, thank you, Gene. I try to keep the reason why my voice is calm and smooth today is because I had a very tumultuous morning, and so I'm consciously trying to smooth myself out. But that's probably why. Yeah, so, the likelihood that YouTube increases their suppression and their censorship is very high. And so, a lot of channels might be forced to find other platforms or find other venues. And so I'm letting you guys know this in advance that, there might be, there might be the necessity for us all to migrate somewhere else. So, yeah, I know Rockford. Rockfin doesn't always work on mobile. I know Rockfin is, there are some, there are some drawbacks. It's not quite as technically simple or easy as YouTube. But anyways, just giving you guys a heads up. I mean, it may not, it may just be beyond my control at some point that we may have to go somewhere else. There are other options that I've been hearing. I've been hearing something about Odyssey. If anybody knows anything about that and can give me any kind of feedback, positive or negative, about Odyssey, the Odyssey platform, or maybe I'll just look into it myself. But I'm just letting you all know that having alternatives might be a necessity in these times. And so right now, Rockfin is a pretty good alternative. It's not perfect, but it's there. And we are there. We are live now on Rockfin. So, I see people over on Rockfin. Ryan Gorman, Jacob Gordon, Jay Thadcast. What's up? Urban Hermit. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with me on Rockfin. I appreciate you. Let's, Kameshwari Kate. What's going on? All right. We're getting some more people on here. Thank you, guys, for supporting the Rockfin experience. Anyways, we've got about 60 watching, 18 likes. Please like up the video if you are new. You know what to do. Jay Thadcast, I can spam on 2 platforms at once. That's right. You are multifaceted. What's up, Muzza? How you doing? We got Muzza in the house. Thank you for being here. Twitch. I actually signed up for Twitch. I have a Twitch channel, and I just haven't done anything with it yet. So maybe Twitch. You're right. Thank you for reminding me. There's so many. I have so many platforms and so many social media accounts. I can't even keep them straight. But yes, I'm on Twitch. There's nothing there yet, so if you go look me up on Twitch, you probably won't see anything. But maybe Twitch might be easier because I think Twitch is easier for mobile. So, yeah, let's explore that one too. But I don't know. Is Twitch suppressing people or censoring people? Does Twitch allow for an openness of dialogue and discussion? I wonder. I don't know. Judy Truitt says, at present, I am able to view YouTube channels that are more radical than Kevin's. Yeah, and I don't doubt that. I'm sure there are people. It's kind of a weird thing because I know that there are channels out there that are probably saying some wilder stuff than I am, and somehow still are able to at least go around the suppression or whatever. And other people, it affects really, other people are suppressed heavily. For whatever reason that is, I don't know. I don't know. If anybody has any insights or ideas about that, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Okay. Let's get into it. Let's get into something while we got the time. Oh, well, so I wanted to jump right into this. From Euractiv.com, climate busting plane pollution revealed by new EU study. This is from November 24th, 2020. And, here you go. Same news, different day. It was worse than we thought. The emissions were worse than we thought. The effects of industrial civilization, much more damaging than we thought. Just really quickly, I actually heard the other day, was it epigenetics? Was it somebody who, hold on one second. I'm not sure if I think it was an epigeneticist, but don't quote me on that. Anyways, was talking about chemicals in various everyday things that we use or touch. One of the big ones being, BPA in plastic. But also there are like chemicals in the receipts, when you get receipts at the store. These chemicals, they carry chemicals that are stored in your body and have consequences, not necessarily right away, but maybe 2 or 3 generations down the road. They can alter gene sequences or alter people's chromosomes, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm doing a really bad job of kind of getting this idea together. But basically, we are poisoning ourselves in the short term and the long term, right? A lot of the products that we use and the things that we ingest and the chemicals, in our environment are going to have long-term, generational consequences. It was quite frightening. Anyways, if you want to know about where humans are going in the future. I'm one of the more normal people that you follow, Kuro. Okay. I think I'm fairly normal, but I'm also, I think I say things that people really don't want to hear. But anyways, I don't know. If you've got weirder people for me to follow, please drop me a link or send me an email because I'm down. But it's good to know that I'm glad that people are taking in other ideas that are way more out there because we need more out there ideas. There are a lot of people that I follow and that I watch that are way weirder than me too, or people that are, on all spectrums of thought and ideas and beliefs. Sometimes I echo those thoughts and beliefs on this channel, and sometimes I don't, because I know my audience on some level. On some level, people can't even really get with certain ideas. Other people are just as out there as I am. Anyways. All right. Thank you, Jacob Gordon. I appreciate your support and your viewership. And don't, also include cell phone radiation and 5G and all that other good, fun stuff that we're doing to ourselves and our planet. Anyways. Oh, he said the word 5G. We're going to demonetize this video. If you just say the word 5G, the number, letter, alphanumeric, whatever you want to call it. If you say the 5G, you must be going off into crazy land. The European Commission published new findings on Tuesday that confirm aviation's non-CO2 climate impact is substantial. So impact outside of CO2. As the EU executive mulls how to regulate plane travel in the decades to come. Carbon dioxide has the most quantifiable warming effect on our planet, but other greenhouse gases, although less abundant, play a role. In aviation, the altitude planes fly at has complicated research into what impact nitrogen oxide, soot, and more can have. Oh, soot, you say? Oh, but planes, they burn real clean. There's soot, you say? Oh, let's read on. Yes, there's soot from airplanes. A new comprehensive study conducted by the Europe, they burn so clean, there's hardly anything coming out of the engines. A new comprehensive study conducted by the European Aviation Safety Agency for the Commission now looks at how gases like NOx can be tackled by EU policies, although the authors insist several uncertainties remain and new ones have emerged. Well, tell me more. EASA's experts say that the new climate modeling techniques suggest that aviation emissions are currently warming the climate at approximately 3 times the rate of that associated with aviation CO2 emissions alone. That means that non-CO2 is up to 2 times worse for the climate than carbon dioxide alone. How all these various emissions interact in the atmosphere, especially at altitude, requires more research according to the Commission. But it is against that backdrop that new policies are already starting to be designed. Currently, only carbon dioxide emissions from planes that fly intra-EU routes are included under the bloc's carbon market. Oh, okay. So anybody that flies outside of the EU routes are outside of the carbon market. So, whatever. Again, externalizing emissions for calculation's sake or whatever. Where am I? Next year, the Commission will update the legislation that underpins it. The study suggests that a monetary charge could be levied on NOx emissions and that they could be folded into the ETS in order to incentivize manufacturers and airlines to reduce these emissions. Okay. Do you think that will work? However, the Commission insists that more time is needed for research and to establish what the right price would need to be. That is why the study estimates that it would take between 5 and 8 years to implement a charge. So, guys, we're going to do something about this, and whatever the thing that we're going to do probably is going to have a big effect, and it's going to take us, close to a decade to implement. So, hang tight. Joe Dardenne, aviation manager with Clean Mobility Group, Transport and Environment, said that the EU should lead by ensuring air traffic doesn't bounce back to pre-COVID levels while getting planes to fly smarter routes and use e-fuels from renewable sources. You know what that means, right? Biofuels. She added that the European Commission was first tasked with addressing the non-CO2 emissions of flying in 2008. It shouldn't waste any more time in implementing the solutions that are available today, but they will. They will waste a whole lot of time doing that because they're going to have a commission or a discussion about the commission and a report and a fact-finding mission, and then another meeting, and then some talks, maybe some legislation, maybe that won't get passed, and they're going to have another round, blah, blah, blah. An additional climate charge could also be deployed, although EASA's experts warn that it would likely be more complicated to implement. Given the lack of common international standards for pricing, the full climate cost of a flight, the lack of common international standards, as in none, for pricing the full climate cost of a flight, and the significant research also indicating time needed. We got to do some research, guys, before we realize that we should just ground 90% of the planes. The answer is ground 90% of the planes, but we're going to spend 10 or 15 or maybe 25 years researching this until the climate falls completely apart, and everybody at that moment will go, wow, we should have just grounded the planes. Until we could realize the impact of the planes, we should have just grounded the planes. Or, until we devised an alternative, we should have just grounded the planes. To cut non-CO2 emissions at source, the EU executives experts support a fuel blending target, which would increase the use of sustainable aviation fuels, which are also climate destroying. So they're not sustainable. Sustainable, actually, in this case, is we'll change the name to bullshit aviation fuels, or BAFs. SAFs, or BAFs, are greener and contain less particulate matter and sulfur emissions than regular kerosene. Well, all right. Green MEP Sieran Cuff told Euractiv that the fuels must be truly sustainable and we cannot repeat the mistakes of the past. That's why we're going to use fuels that are not sustainable, because we don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past, as was the case with land-based biofuels. Oh, okay. Land-based biofuels, that was a mistake. Good to know. Good to know. Where are these fuels? Where do they come from? The truly sustainable ones. I'd like to know where they come from, because it sounds like another mistake. Another mistake in the process of being enacted. Adding that the time frame suggested by the study are unrealistic. These measures are needed urgently to address the environmental cost of aviation. How about grounding the planes? That would be urgent and would address the environmental cost of aviation if you grounded the planes. But also to further incentivize model shift, which sounds like bullshit, or model shift, the Irish lawmaker said, adding that the climate charge will be required if energy taxation rules are not revised sufficiently. Early next year, the Commission is expected to publish its Refuel EU. Oh, that sounds so great. Sounds pretty green. Refuel EU initiative, which is aimed at boosting SAF's, or BAF's, current meager share of fuel demand, and which could reportedly already include a blending mandate. We're going to blend some of these BAFs with the regular kerosene, and then we're going to feel a whole lot greener, aren't we, guys? Another emissions-busting measure under consideration would involve tweaks to air traffic management so that flight paths avoid ice, supersaturated areas, and other regions considered climate sensitive. Well, that would be a nice thing to do. That'd be so thoughtful. There is currently no obligation or incentive for airlines to avoid them. So, yeah. There's no incentive, so that would be have to be mandated or there would have to be some rule applied. And of course, the airline industry will lobby against this for years and years to come. So it's going to take a really long time to even implement that, unless there are some politicians out there or lawmakers out there that aren't willing to be bought off by the fossil fuel. Aircraft contrails. Ooh. What's this about? Aircraft contrails can reflect radiated heat back towards Earth, increasing surface warming. Well, depending on the altitude at which these contrails actually happen, there is another effect. They radiate heat back to Earth if they're high. If they're low, they actually radiate heat back to space. The study insists that an enhanced capability to predict accurately the formation of persistent contrails. So they're actually talking about something which we have talked about on this channel, that aircraft form persistent contrails is needed for the idea to work well. So they need to understand the formation of persistent contrails a little better, which they don't understand them. And there's probably going to have to be a whole lot of honesty around that as well. But yes, persistent contrails is a phrase they're using in this article because they exist. Persistent contrails are a thing. If you look up in the sky when planes are flying, sometimes you will see these contrails that last for hours and hours or all day. According to the EASA study, Japanese ATM, which is the air traffic management, diverted just 1.7% of flights and recorded a reduction in contrail impact of nearly 60%. Wow. However, it added that the findings may not transfer to the European context. The Commission recently unveiled its updated Single European Sky proposal, Singularity European Sky proposal, which promises to update decades-old flight paths and a 10% emissions cut provided by reduced fuel burn. That could be good. Transport Commissioner Adina Valine confirmed in a written answer to MEPs last month that the up to 10% cut includes all greenhouse gases after green lawmakers raised doubts about the accuracy of the emissions reductions on offer. So there you go. They have found out that there are other non-CO2 effects of air travel that greatly increase the impact of air travel. And they're like, what are we going to do about this? And everybody else is like, I don't know, let's keep flying in airplanes. Let's keep the airline industry propped up a couple more years, guys. Because it's more important that they don't go under than it is to save the planet. But, whatever. Let's go into this article. But I'm going to wrap it up with this. Climate apocalypse fears stopping people from having children, says study. This is from Friday, November 27th, from The Guardian. Survey of 600 people finds some parents regret having offspring for the same reason. People worried about the climate crisis are deciding not to have children because of fears that their offspring would have to struggle through a climate apocalypse, according to the first academic study of the issue. First one of many, I'm sure. The researchers surveyed, or maybe they'll just stop doing these studies altogether because, well, we didn't really like the outcome of that. Well, that was really interesting and also frightening. Maybe we'll just shelve these studies in the future. The researchers surveyed 600 people aged 27 to 45 who were already factoring climate concerns into their reproductive choices and found 96% were very or extremely concerned about the well-being of their potential future children in a climate-changed world. One 27-year-old woman said, I feel like I can't in good conscience bring a child into the world and force them to try and survive what may be apocalyptic conditions. These views were based on a very pessimistic assessment of the impact of global heating on the world. How dare you be so pessimistic? Are you one of those doomer types? Are you due to climate change? You should stop that right away. You should stop that pessimism and get to consuming. Anyways, based on pessimistic assessments of the impact of global heating on the world, the researcher said one respondent, for example, said it would rival World War I in its sheer terror. Or how about World War III, which we haven't experienced yet, but sounds pretty terrifying. The research also found that some people who were already parents expressed regret over having their children. Having a child also potentially means that person going on to produce a lifetime of carbon emissions that contribute to the climate emergency. And if you don't understand that, that is what happens. Unfortunately, that's, when you have kids, you have to think about the fact that, every child raises carbon emissions and becomes another human emitting carbon emissions. But only 60% of those surveyed were very concerned about this carbon footprint. The fears about the carbon footprint of having kids tended to be abstract and dry, said Matthew Schneider Meyerson, but also very true. Even though they're abstract and dry, also extremely true and important. There wasn't an emotional impact about this subject, the carbon footprint. We couldn't drum up an emotional impact of the carbon footprint, so therefore it wasn't that important. But whatever. But the fears about the lives of existing or potential children were really deep and emotional. It was often heartbreaking to pour through these responses. A lot of people really poured their hearts out. The number of people factoring climate change into their reproductive plans was likely to grow. Schneider Meyerson said, as people become more pessimistic about climate change, as the impacts of global heating become more obvious. Every day more and more obvious. Part of my tumultuous morning was that I was calling people names on Twitter. So sometimes I can't help myself. I must be a very mean person to call climate deniers, names or whatever on Twitter. But people are retweeting articles about the sun. The sun is controlling the climate change, and it's not people at all. But they're all very calm and very trying to be scientific about their climate denialism. And when you point out that they're just stupid, oh, how dare you call me? Oh, you're very crude. No, you're very stupid. I'm not crude. You're just stupid. Stop being stupid. And I'll stop being crude. How about that? How's that for an exchange? All right. Okay. How's that for a deal? The study, published in journal Climatic Change, found no statistically significant difference between the views of women and men, though women made up 3/4 of the respondents. A 31-year-old woman said, climate change is the sole factor for me in deciding not to have biological children. I don't want to birth children into a dying world, though I dearly want to be a mother. The researchers found that 6% of parents confessed to feeling some remorse about having children. A 40-year-old mother said, I regret having my kids because I'm terrified they will be facing the end of the world due to climate change. And that is terrifying indeed. Schneider Meyerson said, I was surprised. For parents, this is an extremely difficult statement to make. This is interesting. Over here on the side, there's another article. Maybe I'll read this tomorrow or in the future. Birth strikers meet the women who refuse to have children until climate change ends. It might be a long time. But an interesting idea nonetheless. It is an unprecedented window into the way that some people are thinking and feeling about what many consider to be the most important decision in their lives. Other findings were that younger people were more concerned about the climate impacts their children would experience than older respondents, of course, and that adoption was seen as a potential alternative to having biological children. The study indicated that climate-related fears for their children's lives were rooted in a deeply pessimistic view of the future. So there must be something wrong with them, maybe. Or is that pessimism well-founded? Of the 400 respondents who offered a vision of the future, 92.3% were negative. 92.3%. 5.6% were mixed or neutral, and just 6% were positive. Wow. Oh, 0.6, sorry. 0.6, just 0.6% were positive. 92.3% were negative. Wow. So if you think that people aren't aware, if you think that people, I think that a lot of people are out there just living their lives and trying to appear normal, as we all are on some levels. I am. I'm living my life on some level in some spheres of my life. I'm a completely just regular ass dude, just doing regular ass stuff, right? But internally, and also, of course, on this channel and in some other places, I'm expressing my pessimism and my negativity, or maybe or even more in private. I'm feeling a pessimism and a negativity, right? And this is what people are actually feeling. 92.3% were negative. So that's what people are actually feeling, even if if they're not externally. This isn't externally showing up. I'm gonna bet y'all that a lot of people are. We all kind of look out at the world and we see people kind of just being CFMs. If you know what I'm talking about. Those crispy little CFMs. You try rubbing, you try scrubbing, and still they persist. My guess is that many of those CFMs are quite climate aware, but they're just running around like other CFMs and doing other CFM stuff. We're all kind of doing CFM stuff, a lot of us. Anyways, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Do with that what you will, whatever. Rich Diana says realism is becoming overwhelmingly negative. Overshoot is real. I'm gonna go check out Rockfin for a second. Hey guys, how you doing? I see people are chatting a bit on the Rockfin. Thank you. Urban Hermit says if Kevin read only Rockfin comments, people would flock to this place. Too sweet. I think you're right. Well, maybe that's an idea. Maybe I'll just spend a little more time reading the Rockfin comments. But thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys showing up on the Rockfin. We have 7 viewers hanging out with us on Rockfin, and we will have more in the future. Have 102 on YouTube. Robert Arajo says I come from a family of CFM. We all do. We all do. My whole family is CFM. Not the whole thing, but the majority. Majority. And what are you going to do, right? They grew up CFM. They grew up propagandized to be CFM. So, and it's hard to break those habits. Judy Truitt says, are CFMs like Stepford people? Yes. Robots, indeed. Or whatever you want to call them. Programmed. Kevin Chanholzer says, I was a CFM. Oh, Kuro Hike, CFM is, I can't say it at the moment. It's what Hambone always says. Or here, I'll write it in the chats. Anyways, guys, I've run out of time. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I will be back tomorrow at the regular time of 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. What's up, Rockfin people? Thank you for hanging out. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Until next time, peace.